Hi, okay, so today I want to talk about why and how we stay sick for so long. And I know this is a question that I always wonder over and over, and it's like, how can I still be sick, right? If you have had a chronic illness, you wonder to yourself, how can I still be sick for so long? Like the trauma's over, the assault, whatever chemical was in your system, or whatever virus, or whatever, initiated this for you, this illness for you, whether you were being overworked, or it was a stress, or it was an event, or it was an illness, or a toxic exposure, or whatever. You think, like, how can it still be going on so long later? Why aren't I healing? Why aren't I getting better, right? I'm doing all these things right. I'm eating a healthy diet. I'm getting to sleep on time. I'm doing all the right things. And yet my body's continuing, right, to continue on, and it's not improving. And so you can often wonder, like, what is going on? Aside from just the toxicity in your body and the illnesses and infections in your body, because those are two real things. Why else would it still be going on? And there's a third reason, and this is almost always present. It can either be the driving force or a secondary force, but it's usually present in everyone who's chronically ill or who's not getting better when they should be. And this is your mind, okay? So this is the power of neuroplasticity and the neural connections that I've talked about before. I have a video on that. But this is, basically that neurons that fire together wire together. And this is how illness is created and goes in a circular motion. So let's just take example. You've been sick for a long time, right? You did have a real thing that happened to you. It was like an event, a toxic exposure, a virus, a disease, whatever it was that started it out. But now that should be better years later, and you're still sick. So what's happened along the years that is hard to see is that you have formed neuroassociations to everything, to literally everything. Sort of like Pavlov's dog, when they ring the bell and he salivates and gets his food, right? And then they finally stop ringing the bell and the dog still salivates and gets his food. So that's a famous, example. But this has happened to you, and you have formed those sort of neural connections all the way along for years without even realizing it. So if you're already sick, your body's in a super, super high stressed state, right? It's pumping out adrenaline and cortisol. It's in a fight or flight situation, it feels. When your body's chronically ill or when there's something majorly wrong, it's a life and death situation to your body, and your body goes into that mode, okay? And it's usually pumping out cortisol and adrenaline hormones. So when that happens, almost anything in that situation that you do, like, oh, I took a vitamin and it made me worse, you just formed a neural connection, right, against it. Especially if you try it one more time and it happens again, then you suddenly say to yourself, I can never have that vitamin, right? If say it was a B12, a lot of people get stimulated by B vitamins, even though they're super helpful for the nerves. If your nerves are already on a hijacked alert system and they're already pumping out, sometimes B vitamins can overstimulate them. So people might take a B vitamin, get worse, and then think, I can never take one. So you sort of wall that off in your mind, like that's a bad thing, right? Maybe you, then somebody with a really strong smelling perfume walks by you and you feel even sicker, right? You feel sicker, you start to get a headache because you're already sick. So a new symptom arises and you think, oh my God, I'm totally have chemical sensitivity and I can't be around any smells, right? So you realize that and you start to wall yourself off, and over time you've made all these connections. So, to a food. So you might eat a food and your symptoms get worse, and whether your symptoms have gotten worse in direct relation to actually eating that food or to something else, it doesn't matter. Your brain forms that, I just ate a banana and now my symptoms have gone worse, even if it's not in direct response to that banana, but you've in your mind formed it, and now you won't eat bananas, right? So your world gets smaller and smaller and smaller because logically, you start to form all these associations with anything in the outside world that makes you worse, or makes your symptoms even worse, or makes you sicker for longer. So you start to try to self-protect, and that's a normal thing, right? It's like self-protect, self-protect. Your body's on high alert, constantly searching for things to self-protect you, but your body can only be under that amount of stress for so long before it actually makes you sick. So over time, you're actually becoming sick from stress, not the original infliction. So whatever originally inflicted you is maybe it was a chemical spill, or maybe it was a virus, okay? And this has been long gone now, and you're wondering why you're still sick. You are still sick because of stress. And you're like, but I don't feel stressed, and I try to, do my meditation, I try to go to bed early, I don't even go to work, I wall myself off society, I lay in bed all day. That's also stressful. You don't think you're causing yourself stress, but it is so stressful for your body to be on guard 24/7, wondering when a strike might come or what you need to avoid to protect yourself. So if you're always in protection mode, if you're always in self-protection mode and high alert, and just always under this psychological stress of what can hurt me, what's going to hurt me, what symptoms are present, scanning your symptoms. This is a stress response. Even if you don't feel like it's stress, it's a super amount of stress. And this stress over time builds on itself. It cycles on itself. You're stressed because you're scanning and you're being self-protective, and you're aware and you're trying to protect, and this creates more stress. And then it makes you sicker, which creates more stress, which makes you sicker, which creates more stress, which makes you sicker. And you can see how this cycle goes on. And years and years and years down the road, people can say, why am I still sick? I'm eating the right diet, meditating, going to bed, avoiding all these things. I'm constantly self-protecting myself against all these things, so why am I still sick? It's because the stress of all the self-protection and of everything that you continually do to keep yourself safe, and all the internal body scanning, symptom scanning, keeping yourself safe, making sure you don't push too hard, making sure you don't eat that, making sure you don't smell that, making sure you don't exercise too hard, making sure is a complete 24/7 cortisol stress response, which happens in the wild. Basically, if you're scanning and trying to keep yourself safe from a bear attack or anything like that, these people were under serious stress. And you need to take the stress off. You need to feel safe. So what is the answer? Is we need to stop the stress response. And the only thing that can stop that is a feeling of safety. And so you need to cultivate that in yourself. And I'll do another video talking about the safety response and how to strengthen and start and develop your self-safety feeling, that calm feeling, right? So again, stress is maybe not what gets us sick. Most of us who have a chronic illness, stress didn't get us sick. But over time, the continual physiological stress response, it's not even a mental stress that you're feeling, it's a body stress, it's a physiological stress response that's happening in your body day to day on a continual basis is what's keeping you sick over time. Without breaking that, no matter all the good things that you're actually doing are not going to work if your body's continually in that state. Even if you don't realize that it's in that state, but you can relate to the fact of body scanning and self-protecting, then trust me, you are in that state, and you need to learn how to break that state so that you can break the cycle and start to heal the body, as opposed to keep the sickness rolling on and on year after year. So I hope that this helped, and if any of this sounds true for you, then you need to really do some thinking about this, and I'll put together some videos on ways to stop it that I'm always working on for myself. But in the meantime, just think about it. Just think about all the things, or maybe jot down a list of all the things that you self-protect against, all the things that your body has a stress response to, or that you feel fearful of, or that you just constantly are trying to avoid, or all the scanning that you do, all the factors that you worry about and try to avoid, these types of things, if you make lists, you'll suddenly see that you fill a page, and that's the stress response at work. So hope this helped to give you some perspective.